Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Success Through People with LinkedIn and Office 365 session. My name is Jim Icon. I'm a product manager in the Office People team. And today I have the pleasure to be presenting with Doug.
Hello everyone, my name is Doug Edison. I'm also a product manager in the Office People team. I work out of Norway in a small town up north called Tromsø. It's good to be here in warm Orlando.
Yeah, so actually when I met Doug on Sunday, he was still wearing his jacket, so good to have you here, Doug. All right, so why don't we get started? As you all know, these sessions are 45 minutes. That means that we don't actually have a lot of time, but what we're going to do is we're going to spend a lot of time on demos. Instead of spending a lot of time on slides, we have a lot of demos lined up. We're going to walk through various experiences. First, we'll start a little bit on what Office People experiences are. And then Doug will go into the current experiences that are rolling out in Office 365. Whether it's the profile cards or the expanded views, we'll get a quick background. And then I'm going to talk about how LinkedIn ties into this, how we are integrating LinkedIn for the first time within Office 365 in a native experience. And we'll talk about some of the scenarios we're tackling there. And then we'll do a bit of a quick look at our roadmap, since we're really starting the journey with LinkedIn integration scenarios, and there's a lot more to come as well. But before we get started, why don't we talk a little about what we're really trying to solve here. And when you think of Office 365, based on what license you have, you might have anywhere between 15 to 25 different apps, which is great. From Outlook to Teams to Groups to Delve to SharePoint, OneDrive, you name it, we have it, which is great. But that also means that there are 25 different places information gets siloed. It becomes really hard to find stuff. I'll give you one example. If you're trying to find a file, where do you start? Is it an email attachment? Is it in one of the groups? Is it in Teams? Is it in OneDrive? Is it in SharePoint? God knows where it is. It becomes really, really hard. So this is not only a technology problem, but it's also a cultural problem as well. Just like we have silos in the apps we use every day, there's also silos in the teams that we work across as well. It's really hard to find a subject matter expert. You might be working on something very similar, but there could be another guy in another team who might have done something very similar, who might be an expert on that subject. And what we're really trying to do is solve and break down these silos. And for us, that's where Microsoft Graph really comes into play. And you might have heard about Satya talking in Monday keynote about Microsoft Graph and how it ties and connects the dots between all of the interactions we have across Office 365. And you might be wondering, well, how does people fit into this equation? Well, as it turns out, people are the strongest signal, the strongest relationship between the graph. Every time I share a file with Doug, every time we collaborate, every time we have a meeting, that relationship gets stronger over time. And that means that through Doug, I could find other information, I could find other people, other experts, as well as grow my network. And that's one of the reasons why we think that people is a great pivot in navigating and finding information through Microsoft Graph. And we're going to have a lot of demos today that actually walks us through that. Now, what are Office People experiences? Well, we're a team based mostly in Norway. We are the team that's built Delve. We own People Search across Office 365. We own a lot of different experiences. And for the last year or so, we've been heavily focused on profile cards. And you might be wondering, why are you guys looking at profile cards? Well, as it turns out, today profile cards are really used like a static business card. It has some basic information. It has the job title, the email, maybe the company name. There really isn't much value in a profile card today. And based on which experience you are on, the card differs. There's different sizes, form factors. But at the end of the day, it really provides really, really limited value on you contacting a person. But what if we could make these profile cards much more intelligent through Microsoft Graph? And what if we could actually start to bring LinkedIn insights into these profile cards? And we could start to draw connections between what's happening in Office 365 as well as the network and the connections you have across LinkedIn. And that's essentially why we think that the cards are a really great way to deliver value across Office 365. I mentioned that there were 25 different apps across Office 365, and one thing that's common in that is people. Anytime you hover over somebody's name, anytime you click on a name, you'll see a profile card today. So it's a great way for us to drive exposure and draw additional insights of people. So Doug, why don't we jump right in and show us what we're rolling out as we speak today.
Let's take a look at our demo here. So let me introduce you to our new people experiences through an example I think many of you will recognize. It certainly happens to me a lot. I get an email from a person I don't know. Take this example. Sebastian Blom is asking me for help with some data. It's a legitimate ask, but I don't know Sebastian. And it's hard for me to give a good response to this email without knowing more about him. And what could I do today? I can search through my email, see if there's anything pops up about him there. I can go to the company search portal, search for his name, see if there's some information there. But now I don't have to do this anymore. All I do is hover over his name, and up pops his people card. Now the people card uses the Microsoft Graph to gather information from all over Office 365 and present it like this to us in a condensed manner to help me understand who is Sebastian. There's his name, his title, his department, various ways of contacting him. Down here is an interesting piece of information. He's based in our Cambridge office, which is good for me, being based in Norway. It's good to have someone in approximately the same time zone. Jem is mostly asleep when I need to talk to him. You can see further down here who Sebastian reports to. And then there's a LinkedIn section. Now, as Jem said, we will be going, we'll dive deeply into LinkedIn integration later on, so I'll skip that section for now. There's an email section, and of course, if Sebastian really was unknown to me, there would only be one email here. But now I can see that we've been on the same mail threads 3 years ago. This really helps me put Sebastian in context, and I can recognize some topics from these emails. And I understand more about Sebastian, who he is, and what he's working on.
Yeah, and one thing to add here is, Doug, you could have gone to Outlook and found out these emails, found about these files that you shared with him back in the day, but the fact that we bring that all collectively into like this little card, like a dossier, really saves you a lot of time.
Exactly. At the bottom, there's a file section. This could also tell me more about what Sebastian works on. There's not much here today, you can see. All in all, this card now helps me understand who Sebastian is. But in order to answer this email, I'd like to know more about him, specifically who he works with, more about his organization. Now I can see here that who he reports to. But to really dive into his organization, I will click this Reports to link, which brings up what we call the expanded view of the profile card. The expanded view gives us a larger canvas, which allows us to pull in more information from the Microsoft Graph, present it in a delightful way with a much richer feature set. You can recognize the sections here from the in the tabs from the smaller version of the card. Here on the organization browser, I can see Sebastian's manager chain all the way up to Satya. I recognize Perry Clark as our closest common manager, which tells me that we work in the same department within Microsoft, but he's still pretty far away from me in the org. The org browser is, of course, navigable, so I can click any of these people to know more about them. Let's learn some more about Alex. Alex is a manager, so there's a section devoted to the people reporting to him. You can see Sebastian down here, and all these are then Sebastian's peers. And I can click on all these people and browse around and learn more about this organization.
Yeah, one thing, in my previous job, I used to be a consultant, and I used to work with a lot of large enterprise customers. And one thing was common was that, they would actually build similar org chart navigation capabilities in their internet portal. What is the difference between that and this one?
Well, firstly, they won't have to build it. It's here, it's out of the box. Everyone has this with O365. Second, in order to use these in-house solutions, users would have to leave the context they're in. They'd have to step out of the email, open another app, And all this takes you out of your workflow, and that is no longer necessary when you have this information available at hand.
Yeah. And another thing is, there'll still be customers out there that will say, hey, I want to customize this. I want to have my own look and feel. I want to add custom properties, attributes, line of business integration. And the good news is you could still do that in your own experience. We're actually using Microsoft Graph. These APIs are all public. You could definitely go build something very similar, customize it to your liking. But I think to your point, the fact that this is in context, built into Outlook, OneDrive, SharePoint is a really great time saver for most people.
Exactly. Okay, so let's go back to Sebastian. Now, I understand more about the org he belongs to. But if your organization is anything like Microsoft, who you work with on a daily basis is not necessarily reflected in this organizational hierarchy. I'm a product manager. I team up with devs, with designers, with documentation developers when there's a new project. And for many months, these will be the people that I work with, and that isn't reflected in an organization chart. So in order to try to visualize some of these more informal organizational structures, there is the other colleagues section here, where we can see who Sebastian works with. There are engineers here who probably help him implement his research. There's a program manager who helps him focus on the right customer questions. And then I can also recognize some people I know. I know Karen Fisher. And like this, I can browse through these structures and really learn who works with who and on what. And finally, if I really want to dive into what the person is doing, we can check out the About section here. This is where we display the information that the user has entered about themselves into their profile in Delve. But let's be honest, most people don't really enter this information and often don't keep it up to date. So maybe for these kinds of examples, we'll see that later. LinkedIn is
That's right. That's where really LinkedIn shines. Another thing to point out is, of course, in this case, you were looking somebody internal to your organization. So there was actually a lot of information in AAD in Office 365. But if you're looking at somebody external, there really isn't much information available to answer the question, who is this person? And that's where LinkedIn really fits well. One of the things, this started by you exchanging email with somebody. And as it turns out, when we looked at the data, roughly 55% of emails are actually internal within the company, and 45% of emails are with external people. So there's actually a really great need for you to be able to understand who that person is as you're communicating outside your company, whether it's your customers, partners, or other type of contacts.
Okay, so I now know a lot about Sebastian, and I can reply to his email. And like this, we see how I can contextualize someone I don't know and learn more about them. But most of the people in my inbox I do know. And it turns out the people card can help me a lot there too, especially when it comes to refinding content. So.
Yeah, why don't we try an example, Doug? I remember if I had shared a file with you last week, what's the quickest way of getting it?
Yeah, that's a good example. So Jem showed me a file over Skype. That was a good document, and when I want to find back to that document, maybe to reuse some slides from it, the only thing I know about it is actually that Jem authored it. I don't know its title, I don't know where it's stored, and it's very hard to get back to it. What could I do? I could maybe go and click around a bit in SharePoint and see if I find it. Remember, Jem is asleep. He's 9 time zone hours away from me. But realistically, this isn't going to work. I could search for something, but then again, I don't know the title, so it's hard for me to come up with the right words to search for.
And even if I wasn't sleeping, Doug, I probably don't remember where it is myself, because we work across many different groups, and it's common when you're working across groups, you don't really remember where the file is. I mean, who has time to remember where everything is these days, right? So at that point, you really have to rely on another way of finding the content very efficiently.
Yeah, so I could try look in the Shared With Me folder. Maybe Jem shared it with me. I don't know. Did you?
Well, it could have been one of the groups, and if we're part of the group, you probably have access to it. Or I might have sent you an attachment, as we all do, so I'm not exactly sure.
Anyway, my only clue here is that Jem is the author, and here I see him in a OneDrive list, a little by chance, as the author of another document. And if I hover over his name, the same people card pops up, and we are now in OneDrive, and it's the same people card. So we are trying to unify these people experiences across all O365 by showing the same card for a person all over. I say the same card, that's only partly true because OneDrive is a file-centric experience, whereas previously we were in email, which of course is email-centric, and therefore files is presented higher up in the card.
Yeah, that's right. And the card actually consists of multiple panels. There's a panel for contact section, there's a panel for org chart as we saw, there's a panel for LinkedIn which will talk about files and conversations and even meetings. As it turns out, we're going to be adding more panels down the road, and what you don't want is you don't want this card that's super long that you need to scroll as you're trying to find something. So for that, we have a couple strategies. The first is try to contextualize it based on which app you're in. As Doug is in OneDrive now, it probably makes more sense for you to look for files on the card versus emails or meetings. But also in the future, this is something we're working on as we speak, we also want to contextualize it based on the social distance. Now I'll give you one example. I mean, Doug and I, we work a lot. Why do I need to see his org chart every single time? I probably know his org chart. So we could start to reorder the panels more intelligently based on the social distance we have. For somebody that I work with on a day-to-day basis, we might have different panels on top. Somebody who I'm talking for the first time, I'm meeting for the first time, we might try to emphasize panels that help us understand who that person is. So those are things that we're working on as we speak, and we think that in the future, these panels are going to get even much more intelligent.
Okay, so I'm looking for this file that Jem presented to me. It's not one of these three, so I click the files header, which again takes us into the expanded view, which for files presents this nice list of the last files that Jem has modified that I have access to, of course, with previews and with a filter box, which all this is functionality that we can only do on this larger canvas that the expanded view gives us. So let's filter it down to PowerPoints, and then I recognize that this has the document that Jem presented to me.
Exactly. And how many times were you in a situation where somebody sent you an email to say, hey, can you send me that deck? And then you're like, oh gosh, you need to open a tab, go to OneDrive, SharePoint, find the file, share the file from there, or copy paste the link, go back to the email, and then reply back. Well, the fact that is we actually bring this right in context of the app you are in. We're actually saving you a lot of time and a lot of clicks. And also, not to mention, when you're trying to find a file, you might not remember where the file is, certain keywords that match the file, but you'll always remember the person behind it, whether that person had shared it with you, whether that person had worked on that file. So it's actually very easy for us to remember files based on the people that we work with. And that's why people-centric experience is really critical to what we try to do.
That's right. We tend to organize documents by folders and projects and topics and things like this, but what we really remember about the document is the people associated with it. And this pivot is what we are trying to leverage with the people card being available all over Office 365.
Oh, this is good, Doug. What about the case if I'm in a situation where I need to find a file about my, from somebody else, but that person is not listed in the experience that I could just hover over? What do I do then?
Yeah, for example, say I want to open some attachments that you sent me last week. If we say, as we said, that the people pivot is important, it becomes important to find the people card of someone. And let me show how that can be done. It doesn't necessarily have to be Jem doesn't
in your site, basically.
In my context.
Yeah.
So what I do in that case is I simply go to a search box and search for Jem's name. I know he's the one who sent me these attachments. He appears as a search result in the search box, and then there's an icon here which lets me easily get to his people card, even though he wasn't in my immediate context. Right. And once I have the card,
you could dive right in.
I can dive right into the emails, and here are the attachments that he sent to me.
Excellent, great. So that was a quick overview of the the new people, the profile cards, as well as the expanded view that's rolling out. This is available in first release in Outlook Web, as well as OneDrive on SharePoint, and it will be coming to worldwide very soon. But Doug, I think you showed a lot of great scenarios for people inside the organization, outside the organization. But what about the case where you're trying to collaborate with somebody external?
Yeah, most people, or many people, do most of their communication with people outside of the org and have invested a lot of time and effort in their contact list. So let me show you how that works with the people card on our mobile app. Now I'm on my iOS device here, as you can see, and I can open the Outlook app, which now supports people card. So here's a mail from a person that is not in my organization. And of course, there will be no data for that person in the company directory. But if I click on the person and open up the people card, we can still see there is a people card with the same section that we recognize from the web version. And it has quite a lot of data in it. If I look at the contact information, there's quite a lot of it. And this is data that I have entered myself into that person's entry in my contact list. So what the people card does is it goes out and looks for data in AED, in SharePoint, in email, in my contact list, and it merges us into one representation in this card. So I could also have a specific entry for Jem in my personal contact list and enter his home number, for example, and that would appear along with the other phone numbers in the people card. And there's one more point to make about the card on mobile, and that is, this is my contractor. Whenever they send me emails, it's with bad news, and I want to call them immediately. And that's very easy to do from all the people cards, and especially nice to have on the mobile. I can call them from the people card within the context of the email without having to switch to another app and again search up this person before I call them. And frictionless communication and contacting is one of our main aims for the people cards.
That's right. No, that's great. Derek, so why don't we talk a little bit about how LinkedIn really fits into this world. As I mentioned earlier, profile cards and expanded views are rolling out now. And we've been working very hard with the LinkedIn folks on also bringing both LinkedIn insights and various different capabilities into the profile cards and expanded view. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about what we're really trying to solve here. As I mentioned earlier, when we think of Microsoft Graph, the graph really starts to learn based on your behavior. Who you're talking to, who you're emailing, the different interactions you have. Over time, the graph really starts to learn, applying machine learning. You could think of the same thing as happening on the LinkedIn side as well. Based on your connections, the interactions you have, there's a wealth of information on the LinkedIn graph too. And one of the things we want to do is we want to be able to leverage both Microsoft Graph and LinkedIn Graph and really help you have better relationships and help you grow your network and also provide additional value within the tools you use every way. And when we think of Outlook, when we think of OneDrive and SharePoint, these are the tools you use every day. And bringing additional insights into these tools, into these people experiences, is really critical so that you could really start to leverage your network. And the scenarios that we'll be tackling early on with the LinkedIn integration is really a couple. The first one is getting to know and learn more about people. And we talked about that 55% of emails are internal, 45% is external. And there is limited value available even for internal people in your organization. So really leveraging LinkedIn to get to know who they are, their expertise, their experience, is something that we could provide right out of the box with a native integration within the profile cards. The second thing is, let's help you grow your network. We talked to a lot of customers as part of our Under NDA Compass program, and one thing we learned was people were saying that they usually don't think of connecting with people on LinkedIn until after they're done with a project or if they're moving from one team to another team. What if we could help you connect frictionlessly as you're working with them on a day-to-day basis? So you're growing your network, you're getting to know them, You're understanding the different insights about them in such a way that it's as easy as clicking a connect button right within Outlook, right within the profile card that you use every day. But then, of course, your job is not to just grow your network. How can we deliver long-term value on top of your network and such that you stay more informed, you stay connected, you get insights about that person, you might know about mutual connections, you might know that maybe that person and you actually went to the same school as you were preparing for a meeting. This could be a great icebreaker. So those are going to be some additional scenarios, additional insights that we could provide as we federate into Microsoft Graph and LinkedIn Graph and start to draw additional insights that are available to you. But first, we're going to focus on these initial scenarios. We want to make sure that you get to know people better, you grow your network, and as we get that going, we will start to look into delivering additional value, additional insights, so you actually start to build more meaningful relationships and you stay more connected with the people you care about. So why don't I just dive right in and show you guys a quick little demo. So in this case, I'm in Outlook Web again. I got this email from Andy Howen. And I'm not really sure about Andy. He just added me to an email. People were asking about some questions about profiles. And one thing you'll notice is right on the card, we have this Find Profile, LinkedIn Find Profile action. If I scroll down, there's a panel with search results as well. So what I'll do is I'll actually click this, and that brings me the expanded view. There's a new LinkedIn tab right within there. And I'm able to see search results. And I can quickly identify that this is the correct Andy. So I click on Andy, and it will ask me to sign into LinkedIn. At that point, I'm deciding to continue to sign in. At this point, I might decide not to continue. It's completely optional. But in this case, I say, yes, let's go. This brings up the sign-in flow. There's the consent. I can learn more. What's happening now is actually I'm giving consent to LinkedIn to show profiles and connections only for myself. So once I sign in, nobody within my organization will be able to benefit from this except for myself. And that's very important to point out. Another thing is, if I sign in once, I don't have to sign in from any other Office 365 experience. So that means that if I sign in Outlook, I don't have to sign in from OneDrive, from SharePoint, from the mobile app, from the desktop app. It's a one-time sign in. And as you can see, as soon as I signed in, I'm able to see Andy's profile here. Looks like we are second-degree connection. I get to see his experience. I get to see his education. If I want to see more, I could click here and go to his LinkedIn profile right away. I could even send him a connect invite right away from this view as well. Why don't we just go ahead and do that? And I could also accept that this is the correct Andy. So this is a really, really easy way for me to check Andy's profile right within the context of where I am. I don't have to open up a tab. I don't have to go to LinkedIn, copy paste Andy's name, try to search for him, find him there. I was able to get to that information right away, right within the context of which application that I'm in. Now, this is just the start. We're also looking at bringing additional insights and capabilities into this profile as well. Let me show you what's coming down the road. Here's a similar mock-up. In this case, we have the experience, we have the education. But now we're also looking to bring in highlights. In this case, I get to see mutual connections I have with Andy, or in this case, Courtney. I could also know that maybe in the past we worked at the same company, or we went to the same school. These could all be icebreakers if I'm meeting Courtney for the first time. These are great things to know about that person so that I could start a more meaningful relationship as I start collaborating with these people. So the highlight section that you see is something that will come shortly after we start rolling out. This level of integration is already starting to roll out to first release customers. But let's talk a little bit about, within Outlook, this is only available within the Outlook web experience. But what about mobile, Doug? I think you're already connected. Why don't we show how that works on iOS as well?
Let me just switch screen. Okay, so here we're back at my iOS device. And we have the Outlook app, as we saw, which supports the profile cards now. And here I've gotten some emails from a person in the company, Andreas Eide. If I click on him and open his card, we can see that the LinkedIn section is available there, just as on the web. And I have 8 possible matches for Andreas. I can click those. And notice I do not have to log in. I've already done that. That was that one-time thing I've done long ago. I recognize Andreas as the right match, so I can click on him and then accept that. And there we are. Now I have all Andreas's LinkedIn information available on the mobile card.
That's right. It looks like Andreas actually sent you a connect invite. It says accept there, so you could also accept it as well if you want to. So let me talk a little about one of the questions that we get as well. You might have saw that when Doug was demoing, he actually said, "Is this the right match?" So let's talk a little bit about what the story there is. So in this case, I click Find Profile, and as you can see, we're asking, is this the right match? I could either say yes here, or I could say right after I see the profile. Why are we asking that? Well, as it turns out, within the work context, many of us don't actually sign up to LinkedIn with our work email. So it's really hard for us to know who that person is on LinkedIn as we're working through, in a work context. And that's one of the reasons we rely heavily on search. For search, we of course use AAD, whatever is available in AAD, such as their company name, their job title, and other types of information that is available. And we try to hone in and also leverage the LinkedIn social graph to identify what could be the right match and help you get to that person right away. Now, in this case, when I say, is this the right match? This is what we call a user level association. So I've associated Jan to this right LinkedIn profile. So next time, if I get an email from Jan, if I hover over his card, instead of saying find profile, it actually says view profile. Now, these associations are done at the user level. One of the areas that we're going to look into is to do crowdsourcing. So that, I'll give you one example. If 5 people associate Doug as the correct Doug, why should the 6th person see search results? So that's an area we're going to start to invest in and understand how we can help improve both the relevance as well as the conflation so you could get to the right LinkedIn profile right away. All right, so let's talk a little bit about privacy and control. This is an area we get a lot of questions as well. And we spent a lot of time with LinkedIn, with our customers under NDA Campus program. We got a lot of feedback. And first things first, LinkedIn members are always in control. If you remember when I started the demo, I decided to opt in. I decided to sign in. If I didn't want to sign in, I could have just went back to my email and just went along with my day. So as a user, I could decide to sign in to Office 365, to my work account, or to my personal account on Outlook.com. It's completely optional. And after I sign in, I could actually sign out right away as well. I could go to LinkedIn settings page. In the partners and services, there's permitted services. And then if I come here, you'll actually see this is MSIT, this is our tenant. I could see that, and I could sign out of there at any time. So in the future, if I leave the company, if I go somewhere else, I'm always in control. I could sign out at any time. And we wanted to make sure that that was available from day one. Now, another thing is LinkedIn is actually great in providing lots of bells and whistles and power tools for you to manage your privacy, your LinkedIn privacy, whether it's making your public profile visible or not, whether it's allowing your profile to be searched in third-party applications. There is a great amount of control that LinkedIn provides out of the box. The good news is this integration inherits all of those privacy settings. So like I said, members are always in control. The second question we get is, well, what about admin control? What if I'm an Office 365 admin and I want to control this interaction? And we provide an admin level on-off toggle on the AAD portal today. So that means that as we start rolling this out in first release, the admins that receive a message sender post will actually get lots of information, FAQs, links on how to control this integration. And we wanted to make sure, if we step back 5,000 foot, that both users are in control as well as admins are in control in managing the integration. And that was very critical for us. And of course, as we start rolling this out in first release, we're going to look to hear feedback from you. And we were going to take that feedback and we're going to assess that. And we're going to try to make sure we have additional choice control and transparency so that everybody feels like they're in control over their LinkedIn profile as this rolls out within the work context. Now, another question that I get quite often is, hey, Jem, this is great that this works in OWA, Outlook Web, but many of us actually use Outlook Desktop. When is this coming to desktop? Well, we are actually working on it as we speak. So let me do a quick little demo. This is fresh code from one of our developers, so it's still work in progress. So it might actually break down, but let's give it a try. So we have the same profile card in Outlook Desktop as well. And then if I come down here, I'm able to see a same LinkedIn panel. I click on this, but now I'm seeing the LinkedIn profile in the in-card view. So this isn't the expanded view that you saw before. Now, we're starting with the expanded view on the web experiences. We want to iterate on that. We want to learn from that. And eventually, those learnings will come into Outlook Desktop as well. But nonetheless, we will add support for Outlook Desktop shortly after the web experiences start rolling out. And the experience is very similar. You get to see the experience, education. There will be various actions you could do on this profile. And the same insights will eventually come to this experience too. So another great thing about this is because this is a profile card on Office clients, the same profile card with LinkedIn would work on Word, PowerPoint, Skype for Business, and any of the Office desktop clients will get the same exact profile card. And that's the beauty of us investing in profile cards first, because that's a really great distribution model for us to get these capabilities out there to a lot of different users. All right, so we talked a lot about how this rolls out. Doug, why don't we talk a little bit about our roadmap as well?
Yeah, let's start with the profile cards. So the version that I just demoed that you saw is fully available today in OneDrive for Business and in the SharePoint web experiences. So you can go there and click around and see exactly what I demoed. We're currently rolling out to Outlook Web and Calendar, as well as mobile. You can expect to see the cards pop up there with more and more functionality over the next months. And then we're hard at work with the rest of the Office clients and the other Office 365 workloads. So
these will also come beyond just Office 365, correct?
Yes, the other clients will also have them. We're working on Cortana integrations
and Windows integration as
Windows.
well. That's right. That's right. And as I mentioned earlier, to your point, these do come with the web experiences first. We get those learnings. We could iterate. We could A/B test. We get your feedback. We could quickly improve, and those carry over to the desktop experiences as well. For LinkedIn, we're actually following the same path as I mentioned. We'll start with a percentage of first release, meaning that not every first release tenant will get this right off the bat. We're going to take it slow. We want to get feedback from you guys. We want to get learnings, and we want to improve and iterate. So we'll start with a percentage of first release, and I think as we get into 2018, we'll be ramping up as we go. While we're doing that, as Doug had showed you, we'll add support for iOS Outlook. And then right after that, Android will also add support as well. So we'll make sure that this card works not just on web experiences, but on mobile. And the same thing applies for desktop. If your company is part of Fast Insiders, you'll also be the first ones to get this integration within Outlook and Office applications. But if you step back 5,000 foot, really, this is the first of many, I would say, LinkedIn integrations. There's a lot of work that's happening as we speak. I'm hoping, next year when we meet again at Ignite, we'll be talking about how we could bring insights, actionable insights into play here. Right now, the profile card does a great job on answering the question, who is this person? It allows you to grow your network. But we think as we start to find overlap and we start to correlate between insights on Microsoft Graph and LinkedIn Graph, we could perhaps help you better prepare for meetings, whether it's before the meeting or after the meeting. Or we could perhaps look at scenarios where you could start to share and collaborate with your LinkedIn network without having to remember somebody's email address or somebody's contact information. Because at the end of the day, we're really good at remembering people, and we don't really remember lots of those different attributes that exist in a profile card today. So there's a lot of work that's happening as we speak, and we'll be bringing a lot of functionality as we get learnings from this initial integration. So just a quick little recap. As I mentioned, really the goal is to make sure these experiences are integrated. We're the Delve team. We built a destination application. We got learnings from that. The feedback was, hey, Delve is great if I only remember to go to it. So it was very important for us to bring the Microsoft Graph Insights and LinkedIn Graph Insights into the context of the apps that you're in, and profile cards are a great distribution model for that. And also, it's all about insights. Right now, we're giving you bits and pieces of information from Microsoft Graph and LinkedIn, but we want to be able to switch to a world where we're actually giving you insights. Whether that person has just recently changed their job, maybe they got a promotion, maybe they started to connect or follow somebody that you care about. There's going to be a lot of different angles we're going to play around with this and really iterate and learn as well. And then last but not least, privacy and choice and control is really, really important, especially as we bring LinkedIn into the workplace. And that's an area that we really would love to get feedback from you guys and really address that as we go forward. So, saying that, I'd like to open up for some questions. Please let us know.
One
Yes.
small point before we leave it. Tomorrow, in this room,
yes.
at the same time, there will be a session about how we are pulling data into the card
Through
and
AAD,
what
yeah.
admins can do to make sure that the card looks good for everyone in the company. So there's a follow-up session tomorrow in the same place at the same time.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, and we'll open up for questions.
So it's great that you have a unified contact experience or contact card experience across all of the applications. But you mentioned you're pulling data from many different places.
That's right.
Do you have a roadmap where you're going to harmonize those many different places? Because they are causing a lot of fragmentation and inconsistent information about the same person in the Office 365 suite.
Yeah, so there's the question of is too much information too much? How do you deal with information overload? There's that question. And then the other one is, how do you make sure that data is consistent in such a way that it comes across as meaningful? And I think for the first question, as I mentioned earlier, we're really trying to build some intelligence layer in the profile card service where we rely on context. And context is defined by two attributes. Which app you're using? You know, are you in email? Are you in files? Are you in Teams? Are you in groups? And as well as the social distance. Meaning that if this is the first time I'm interacting with you, maybe I see LinkedIn panel first. Maybe I see your org chart first, because those are really great attributes to get to know somebody versus seeing other types of information.
So that really was my question. We have things like the Exchange gal, a list of people with their attributes. We have a Yammer profile, a list of people with some attributes. We have the SharePoint profile, you call
That's
it
right.
a list of people with attributes. And there's more places. Same information, same attributes
That's
are
right,
stored
that's
in
right.
many of those places that are independent from each other.
That's
You're
right.
bringing them together on a card, fine, but when is that back end going to harmonize?
Yeah, so we're actually working on something called contact aggregation. So we're looking at finding duplicates and trying to represent them to the user that is understandable. So that's some ongoing work as we speak. To your point, there are teams that have fragmented profile experiences. You know, the SharePoint profile, there's a lot of information on AAD, and sometimes those do get out of sync. So there's going to be a lot of work that we need to solve there. But there is a team dedicated on finding a smart way to do aggregation without taking any user input. Meaning that if we could represent duplicates in a way we collapse data fields, that's going to be something we're going to try as we roll this out this year.
But no plan to actually harmonize the back end, so there's only one list of people with attributes.
It would be hard to harmonize the back end because some teams use heavily Yammer, some teams use SharePoint. And even within an organization, you'll have teams using different services as well. It would be really hard to say, hey, everybody has to use this and only this. But the best thing we could do is try to find a way to intelligently aggregate them in a way that is represented to the user in a meaningful way.
Yeah, I wasn't sort of trying to get users to use one consistent thing, but if all of those products could use one consistent back-end list of people with attributes and just consume the right subset.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yep, that's one challenge we do have. Agreed.
Any plans on that?
Not that I know of. I think that would be a very difficult one to solve. Yep. Cool. Any other questions? Jeff?
First, congratulations. This is fabulous.
Thank you.
Cool stuff.
Thank you.
And I have lots of questions, but I'll nail it at first in terms of the way you think about extensibility over time. How much of this do you want to open up? Let's say, for example, there's something that improves the selection or of LinkedIn things or finds hidden expertise through behavior and then feeds it back in.
Yeah.
How much of that are you looking to encourage?
Yeah, so, extensibility is something that we hear a lot from our enterprise customers. And I will tell you that one of the reasons why we are focusing a lot on this context-aware ordering of panels is so that we could support additional panels that could be lit up. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to try to tackle so that it doesn't come as an information overload. While that's happening, we're betting heavily on AAD. Most of the information actually comes from AAD, and we think that additional attributes extensibility should come through AAD, and the profile card should be a window into that and not be another storage layer or a synchronization layer. And to your point, that will also help with some of the challenges that you mentioned as well. So I would say right now we don't have a great extensibility story, but we are investing in the platform pieces to enable that in the future as it matures. Great.
How you doing? Just want to echo the previous comments. This is great stuff. I mean, I know a lot of folks at our enterprise are really going to be excited about the possibility with the LinkedIn integration, so that's fantastic. Anything you can comment in terms of the LinkedIn data augmenting kind of people search for the enterprise, so being able to really leverage some of the items that are available on LinkedIn to bolster expertise location from a search perspective?
Yeah, so that's another area we hear a lot. On the LinkedIn profiles, there is a wealth of information, whether it's skills, expertise. People also nominate you for different things as well. We haven't really gotten our hands dirty with that part of the world yet. I would say we're kind of laying the foundation. But there's an element of using it to identify experts within your organization, which I think works really well for people search. It might also work well as we highlight the expertise when you hover over somebody's card. That's definitely one thing we want to tackle. The other thing is, and that's going to be a question for you guys, we'd love to hear back from you, is what if we rely as LinkedIn as the source of expertise, should we also think of having a frictionless way of populating LinkedIn expertise based on the work that you're doing? So that's going to be a question that I think we need to all discuss and hear feedback. There's different camps on that question, but we do think there could be opportunity long term as we kind of start to build that flywheel, if I may. Yep. Any other questions? Great. I think we are right on time. Well, thank you so much for joining our session.
Thank you.